Hello, I'm Captain Joe Shute of Captain Joe Shute's Bait and Tackle, Fish Finder Tackle, and Fish Finder Charters here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. What I'm going to be going over with you today is how we make our top shots and wind-on leader loops. We have a lot of people that ask how we make the connection on the end of our wind-ons and our top shots. We do a lot of this for the giant bluefin tuna and the blue marlin. I've been making these top shots for the last 12 years. I've never had one pull out to my knowledge, and we've probably caught hundreds upon hundreds of giant bluefin tunas on this, and you can put all the pressure you want on this connection. It's a very strong connection, it's a very small connection, it's very easy to do. What we're using today is we're going to be using hollow braid. This is 200-pound hollow braid from Western Filament that we're going to be using today. There's a number of different hollow braids on the market. I particularly like this one because it's easy to thread your mono through. I'm doing 200-pound hollow braid to 130 diamond mono. I can put up a 200-pound mono in this hollow braid without raising the size of the hollow braid and jumping up to a 300-pound. So if we do a 300-pound wind on, I'd jump up and use 300-pound hollow braid and 300-pound mono. But for demonstrations, I'm going to use 200-pound hollow braid and 130-pound Momoy diamond line. There are a lot of different kits on the market. A lot of people like to use the needle kits. They're very efficient. They do a great job. I grew up the old school way. I use a piece of number 3 solid wire. I take 6 feet of it. I bend it double and I pinch the end down. I'm going to use this to thread inside my hollow braid and to pull the other end of the hollow braid back through the end that I go in. That's going to create a double sleeve for my mono. I use a 9-foot piece of hollow braid to make my loop. On one end, I pull 3.5 feet and take a black magic marker and put a mark on it. On the opposite end, from the tagged end, I pull 3 feet. And what I do, you insert your wire in the 3.5 foot piece, pop it out, pull the 3-foot piece back down through it. That's the piece that your mono is going to go into. And this should work out just right to have a nice loop and to have the proper distance that you need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this wire and I'll put it in this end of this hollow braid. Eyes don't fail me now. I'm going to push it inside and we're just going to inch it along from the point of the wire back. I've flared the ends of this wire to keep this hollow braid from pulling off of it. If the wire goes inside this hollow braid, you will never get it back off, and you might as well start all over again. But we inch this up till we get up to where our black mark is, right here. And I'm going to pop this wire out. I'm going to separate the wire, and I'll take the short piece that's marked the shortest. I'm going to slide that in there, and then I'm going to bunch this up, take my fingers and pull it right over top of it, and it'll pull it inside that first sleeve. Then what I do, I just inch it down, and I'm going to end up pulling it all the way through this other piece. And it'll pop out the other end just like that. Then I'll take my fingers and I'll pull this all the way out until my other black spot shows up right there. I know that's as far as I need to go. So we'll lay this down. Then what we need is our monofilament. What you want to do with this monofilament is, one, cut it off flush. Cut it just right across, nice and flat. Then you take a piece of emery cloth or you take a piece of fine sandpaper, and what you do, you rub it around, take the burrs off of it, and you want to sand this down until the point of it's just like the bullet that goes in a gun. It's going to be rounded and it's going to have smooth edges on it. Just like so. You want to do that way, so because if a burr catches inside this hollow braid, it'll fray it and it'll be a real pain to get it through. So now what you want to do, you want to insert this mono in this hollow braid, Sometimes if you roll it, you can get it started pretty good. And once you get her started, if you'll point your mono straight down and let your braid hang, you can get it to slide in there real easy. If you ever hit a bad snag and you pull one of these fibers of this hollow braid out, it makes it a lot harder for this mono to go down inside there. And when this happens, sometimes you can work your way through it, sometimes you can't. You just got to start all over again. That's where one of your needle kits will come in handy. But for right now, this works fine for me. You shove it down until you get to your other black mark. Then you pull this out, make sure it's nice and flat. Put your fingers in this loop right here. Grab all this bunched up hollow braid and slide it down, and it'll go, see how it goes right over top of that other piece of hollow braid. And now you've got a double hollow braid right there. You reach up here to the top where your loop is, you pull about 6 inches at a time, take your fingers, work it right down, it'll slide right over top of that hollow braid. You keep doing that, do it 2 or 3 times until you get about a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch away from where your monofilament is inside your hollow braid. And you slide this down. What you want to do, you want the outer sheath to just go over top of the see where it's down on the very bottom. The outer sheath is getting ready to go over the inner sheath, and that's what you want it. You want it to go over to about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Pull that out, you see it pop down, and now you can see right here you got a little bit bigger lump right here, and then you got a single strand of hollow braid here, and this is doubled from here on up. That's a strong connection right there. It won't pull out the way it is right now. But what we're going to do, I'm going to take this right here and I'm going to slide it up about 2 or 3 inches. I'm going to take some ply bond, which is a glue and adhesive, and I'm going to put a few drops of ply bond about 1.5 inches or 2 inches down this monofilament. What this does is doesn't necessarily glue the hollow braid to the mono, but what it does, when you take your fingers and pull this back down over top of it, it slides over top of it and saturates that hollow braid, and it makes it stickier so it won't pull and won't slide. Now what we're going to do, a lot of people would finish this off with a waxed rigging floss. What I'm using is a fly tying bobbin with a heavy duty thread on it. It's small diameter, and it's going to cut into this, and it's going to make a real tight transition, a small transition to go in and out of your guides. What you do, you hang it right here on your hollow braid, point your tagged end towards the monofilament, pinch it good, and then I'm going to rotate this and swing it and walk it down the line, just like this. The weight of that bobbin is going to cut in to that hollow braid and into that mono and make one heck of a connection right there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to walk this down until I hit the mono. When I hit the mono, I'm going to walk it about 1/4 inch down onto the mono, like I'm doing right now. And then I'm going to walk it back up the hollow braid again. And I'm going to walk it far enough that I walk it over top of where the hollow braid doubles back over itself. And once I get done on this second full run like I'm doing right now, I'm going to then walk it back a 3rd time, but not all the way down. I'm going to walk it about 1/4 of the way down, and I'm going to take a piece of 12-pound monofilament, and I'm going to make a loop and lay it on top of my hollow braid and my line, and I'm going to wrap over it with the thread just like you would be if you were doing a rod guide, so I can actually pull this thread back under itself and finish it off. Take a piece of 12-pound mono just like this, double it so you got a loop on this end. We're going to take this, we're going to wrap right over top of that, just like so. Wrap about 1/2 inch down. Okay, and we're going to pull this down. We're going to cut this thread. And we're going to take this thread, I wet it a little bit, pull it back together. And I'm going to put it through this loop, just like so. So it's through this loop right here, this monofilament. I'm going to hold it, and I'll take these two tagged ends and pull it the opposite direction and pull it underneath itself. Just like this. See, it comes underneath itself. Then I'm going to trim that off flush. And that is a very, very small connection right there that will go through any roller guide with no friction, no problem at all. It's a very, very strong connection. I've only got about 28 or 30 inches of mono up inside this hollow braid right here. But it's a double sheath of hollow braid, so it's twice as strong, and it also makes a tighter fit on this mono. My loops are bigger than what you'll normally find in a factory package. I make mine big so I can make it easy to change. I can drop a 130 reel through this, or an 80 reel through this, or a 5-pound spool of mono through it without having to bunch it up and get it through that little hole. Now to finish this off, we can fish it the way it is right here. But to finish it off, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some zap and just put a little bit of zap just over the top of these threads right here. Just a very little bit, just to make sure those threads hold good. And that's just finishing my thread off right there is all it's doing. And we blow that to dry it off. And that's it. That's the whole connection right there. You can take this right now and pull on it as hard as you want to. And by putting that zap on top of there like that, this zap is going to dry real quick. In 5 minutes, I can take this and spool it on my rod and reel with no problem, not have to worry about anything. The ply bond underneath here will finish curing in about 8 hours, but you can still use it the way it is. The reason we put it under there, it's tacky, and it keeps this line from sliding. So that's just one of the simple ways that we have for making a wind-on leader. We've got a lot of different knots coming out real soon. I just wanted to give you a little taste of what we do here. It's simple, it's easy, it's very, very effective. You can do it for very little money. I'm Captain Joe Shute at Captain Joe Shute's Bait and Tackle, Fish Finder Tackle, and Fish Finder Charters in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, saying good luck and good fishing.